chosen one. Heaven pauses time as you read this. You are not here by accident. Every distraction that tried to pull you away, every noise that tried to drown this message, it all failed because God Himself scheduled this encounter. Something sacred stirs in the unseen. Thursday approaches, and with it comes a shift that will touch everything connected to you. You can feel it, a trembling in your spirit, a whisper that says, "Pay attention." You have walked through too much pain for this to be random. You have endured storms that should have broken you, but they only refined you. Every sleepless night, every silent cry, every unanswered prayer was not ignored. It was recorded in the archives of heaven. You have been chosen for a time such as this. And the evidence of that choosing is the resistance you faced. The enemy only fights what threatens him. Right now, heaven leans in, speaking directly to you. Stop scrolling for a moment. Still your mind. Listen with your spirit. This isn't another message for the crowd. This is a divine summons to the one who has felt unseen. The world called you strange. Heaven calls you marked. You are a carrier of light in an age of darkness. And though the world around you shakes, something in you refuses to bow. You've felt that inner strength before the unexplainable endurance, when everyone expected you to quit. That wasn't luck. It was grace. This week carries weight in the spiritual realm. Thursday is not just another day. It is a prophetic intersection where what was promised begins to manifest. Heaven has already written the blueprint. The angels are in motion. You, chosen one, are being positioned for revelation. You may not see it yet, but you're standing on holy ground right now. Every delay you endured has been divine preparation for this alignment. Look back for a moment. Do you remember the times you were rejected, misunderstood, or overlooked? Those moments were not signs of failure. They were proof of protection. God hid you until the right time, because exposure too early would have destroyed what He was building inside you. You've been in a cocoon season, and now the breaking has begun. You are about to stretch wings you didn't even know you had. As was spoken in the sacred texts of old, in the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 31, verse 6, "Be strong, be courageous, do not fear, for the Lord goes with you and never forsakes." That is not a verse to recite, it is a command to live by. The courage heaven demands from you now is not the absence of fear, but the triumph of faith. You have come too far to back down now. What once intimidated, you will soon bow before the authority you carry. The same God who walked with Moses through the desert, who shut the mouths of lions for Daniel, who steadied David's sling in the valley, is walking beside you right now. You are not abandoned, you are accompanied by divine presence. Every step you take toward obedience shakes the realm of darkness. Heaven's armies surround you. When you stand, the unseen stands with you. You have no reason to tremble, for your God has already gone ahead of you into Thursday. This is why you cannot delay. Obedience must become your reflex. The gates of destiny are opening, but they only respond to movement. Heaven is watching for your yes. When you respond in faith, you align with divine momentum, and what took years will suddenly take days. So here is your prophetic call to action, like this message, as an act of agreement with heaven's word. Share it with someone who needs to remember they are not forgotten. Comment the number 77 below to declare your readiness to move when God says move. And if you haven't yet, Subscribe, because what unfolds next is part of a greater revelation that heaven is pouring out on the chosen ones. Thursday is not just a date, it is a doorway. What lies beyond it requires courage, faith, and unwavering focus. Stand firm, for what's coming is greater than what's been lost. You are entering a season where your confidence will be rooted not in what you can do, but in who walks beside you. You are not late. You are not weak. You are chosen, and heaven's hand is on your shoulder even now. Stand tall. Lift your eyes. And remember, when the Lord goes before you, no force in hell can stand against you. The night grows still, and in that silence, something begins to stir. You've felt it before, those moments when the noise of the world fades and a strange awareness fills the room. It's not fear, it's presence. It's that sacred weight that reminds you heaven is near. This is the whisper in the dark hours, the soft but undeniable voice that cuts through your exhaustion and says, "I am still here." You wonder why the stillness feels so heavy, why your heart beats faster even when nothing moves. It is because the unseen has drawn close. The spiritual world is not distant from you, it's layered around you like invisible air. When your spirit grows quiet, you begin to sense it. And lately, heaven has been trying to get your attention through the moments you've tried to ignore. It's not the thunder that carries his voice this time. It's not the grand display or the miraculous sign. It's in the subtle, the pause between breaths, the random memory that stirs your heart, the chill that runs through you when someone says the right word at the right time. God speaks in whispers when he wants your full attention. You see, chosen one, the dark hours are not your enemy. They are the proving ground of your faith. In the silence of the night, when the world forgets you, heaven begins to form you. The whisper you hear is not imagination, it's invitation. God does not shout at his children, he calls them gently, drawing them closer until they recognize his tone. You've been praying for signs, for confirmation, for something loud enough to silence your doubt. But heaven is saying, you already have what you need. The whisper is not the absence of power, it is the evidence of intimacy. The louder you expect God to speak, the less you notice how often he already has. The darkness that surrounds you tonight is not the absence of God, it is the canvas on which his voice becomes visible. There's something sacred about the moments when no one else sees what you are wrestling with. That's where the Spirit reveals the truths too precious for the crowd. It is in that solitude that revelation is born. You remember how the prophets heard him? Elijah stood on the mountain, expecting fire and earthquake. Yet the voice of God came in the still small sound. That same voice calls to you now, not in anger, but in love. Heaven is whispering your name, reminding you that even in the quiet, you are seen. You are not alone in this silence. The one who formed galaxies also listens to your breathing, every unspoken thought, every question you've buried deep, every sigh that escaped when you thought no one heard it, all echoes in heaven's courts. The whisper you feel in response is not coincidence, it's communion. As the Apostle John wrote in the Gospel of John, chapter 1, verse 5, "The light shines in the darkness, and the darkness cannot overcome it." That light is not external, it is within you. It flickers even when you feel surrounded by shadow. The darkness around you only proves that you are a bearer of light. Do not curse the night that reveals the flame inside you. Without the darkness, the light would never be noticed. The whisper in this hour is God's way of telling you that the fire has not gone out. So many have mistaken silence for absence. But heaven's quiet is never abandonment. When God seems silent, He is often strategizing. When He withholds words, He's watching how you walk without them. That's how He builds discernment, by teaching you to trust His heart when you cannot trace His hand. You are being trained in the night, so that when the day comes, your ears will be tuned to His frequency. The whisper is His rehearsal ground for the roar. He speaks softly now because He is preparing you to carry louder authority later. The gentle voice that steadies you in private will become the power that commands storms in public. The darkness may seem endless, but it's not punishment, it's positioning. Every unanswered question is drawing you deeper into dependence. Every delay is strengthening your listening. You are learning the rhythm of heaven, and it begins with silence. When the whisper comes, it may not sound dramatic. It might be a phrase, a feeling, or a sudden peace that silences panic. That's the voice of the Father. He speaks peace where there was chaos, calm where there was confusion. His words do not shout over your fear, they dissolve it. So tonight, do not run from the quiet. Lean into it. Breathe in the stillness as if heaven is speaking through the air itself. Because it is. The Spirit often comes softly so He won't have to compete with the distractions you cling to. He waits until you're still enough to hear Him clearly. And when you finally do, the whisper will change everything. It will realign your thoughts, soften your heart, and remind you that you are never forgotten. You'll begin to realize that the silence was not the absence of His voice, it was the preparation for it. Soon, you'll look back on these quiet nights and see them for what they truly were, divine encounters in disguise. You'll realize that God was closest when you felt most alone, and that His whisper was the anchor that kept your soul from drifting. The whisper in the dark hours is not meant to comfort you temporarily. It is meant to awaken you permanently. When you rise from this silence, you will walk differently, calmer, stronger, certain that even in the absence of sound, the Word is still alive. You are not forgotten. You are not abandoned. You are being spoken to softly, steadily, by the same voice that said, "Let there be light." You feel it now, the gentle stirring that refuses to leave. It's not imagination, it's the mark of heaven resting on you. You have always sensed that you were different, that your spirit didn't fit neatly into the patterns of this world. From your earliest memories, there was something about you that drew both light and resistance. People couldn't quite explain it, and sometimes neither could you. But deep within, you always knew you were marked, chosen one. This mark isn't something earned, it's something bestowed. Before your first breath, heaven had already written your name in divine ink. Every storm you've faced, every heartbreak you've endured, every moment you felt unseen, they weren't accidents. They were coordinates on the path to purpose. The opposition you faced wasn't random, it was reaction. Darkness recognizes destiny before the chosen one even understands it. You've wondered why your journey seems heavier than others, why the battles come harder, why peace seems temporary. It's because you carry something holy. You are not ordinary soil, you are sacred ground. The fingerprints of heaven are all over your life. And the enemy knows that once you realize it, you become unstoppable. The mark on you is not visible to the world, but every realm can feel it. Angels recognize it and move to protect it. Demons sense it and tremble in its presence. That's why certain doors closed suddenly. They weren't punishment. They were protection. God was shielding the oil on your life from environments that couldn't honor it. You may have tried to fit in, to tone yourself down, to silence your convictions so others would feel comfortable. But heaven is saying tonight, you were never meant to blend in, you were meant to stand out. Your light irritates what is unhealed in others. Your peace confuses chaos. Your purpose disrupts complacency. That's why rejection found you, because you were never called to be accepted by the crowd. The Spirit spoke through the prophet Jeremiah in the 1st chapter. Verse 5, "Before I formed you in the womb, I knew you. Before you were born, I set you apart. I appointed you as a prophet to the nations." This scripture isn't ancient history, it's a mirror. It reflects your identity. You were known before you were named. Heaven didn't simply react to your existence, it authored it. Every strength, every weakness, every gift, every scar, all of it was woven with purpose. You are the answer to a problem this generation didn't know it had. So stop questioning your worth because others didn't see it. Their blindness doesn't change your brilliance. Stop doubting your calling because you feel unqualified. Heaven doesn't call the qualified, it qualifies the called. Everything you've been through was God's classroom, shaping you to carry the weight of this mantle. When you were overlooked, it was because God was preparing you. When you were isolated, it was because He wanted your attention. Every detour was divine direction. And now, as Thursday approaches, you stand on the threshold of recognition, not by men, but by heaven. There's a reason you've been restless lately. It's the sound of destiny knocking. Heaven is awakening you to the truth that what is on you is greater than what is against you. The mark you carry isn't a burden, it's an announcement. It tells every dark force that you belong to the light. So when life feels heavy, remember this: you're not fighting for identity, you're fighting from identity. You've already been chosen, already been approved, already been anointed. The battle is simply about believing that truth. The moment you do, everything shifts. Now, I want you to do something small but prophetic. Write this in the comments: I am chosen. Do it not as a routine, but as an act of agreement with heaven. Those 3 words carry weight in the spirit realm. When you type them, you're not just repeating a phrase, you're stamping your spirit with truth. You're saying to every lie, every doubt, every shadow, I know who I am. And when you declare who you are, all of heaven echoes back, yes, that is my chosen one. Because once you accept that identity, the world can no longer define you. The rejection, the pain, the isolation, they lose their power to name you. Only heaven holds your title, and that title is sealed, chosen, called, marked. You are not just surviving, you are being revealed. You are not hidden out of shame, you are hidden for protection until the right moment. And that moment is close. Every delay is folding into divine timing. Every no is becoming a setup for a better yes. You will understand soon why things had to unfold this way. You have been marked by heaven's fingerprint, and nothing on earth can erase it. The darkness begins to stir restlessly. You can't see it, but the unseen realm has already shifted because you are awakening. The moment you started to believe that you were chosen, the forces that once moved quietly against you began to tremble. Hell takes notice when heaven's mark becomes active. You are no longer sleeping, no longer blind. no longer drifting. You have remembered who you are, and that remembrance terrifies the enemy. Every chosen one must confront this moment, the moment when opposition intensifies, when the air grows thick, and confusion whispers through familiar voices. It's not because you've done something wrong, it's because light attracts resistance. The brighter you shine, the more the shadows fight to survive. What you feel pressing against you is not destruction, it's reaction. The enemy always panics before he loses his grip. You may have noticed lately that certain situations repeat themselves. Patterns you thought you had escaped suddenly resurface. Old fears, old temptations, old insecurities, all trying to pull you back into the cycle of the past. That is not coincidence, it's spiritual interference. The enemy doesn't create new tactics, he recycles old ones that used to work. His fear is that you've grown wise enough to recognize them now. And you have. You can feel the difference this time. The same storm that used to knock you down now only tests your foundation. The same words that used to wound you now echo without penetration. You are not who you used to be. You have been through too much fire to be fragile anymore. Every scar has become armor. Every tear has turned into oil. There is a reason the enemy fears you. You carry the reflection of the one who defeated him. You remind him of what he lost. Every time you worship through pain, every time you choose faith over fear, every time you forgive when it hurts, you remind the darkness that it no longer owns you. The enemy cannot handle that kind of authority because it exposes his weakness. As the prophet Isaiah declared in chapter 54, verse 17, "No weapon that is formed against you shall prosper, and every tongue that rises against you in judgment you shall condemn. This is the heritage of the servants of the Lord, and their righteousness is of me, says the Lord." That verse is not theory, it is decree. It means that even when the enemy forms weapons, they cannot fulfill their design. They may launch, but they will malfunction. They may roar, but they will not devour. Every attack against you becomes evidence of your value. If there was nothing on you worth stealing, the thief would not bother knocking. Understand this, the enemy's panic is confirmation of your progress. If the darkness is louder lately, it's because your light has grown stronger. You are nearing breakthrough territory. The spiritual pressure you feel is proof that the next level is close. The enemy always screams the loudest when he knows he's losing ground. So do not fear the trembling around you. Let it be a sign that heaven's plan is unfolding. The shaking is not to destroy you, it's to reveal what cannot be shaken within you. God allows pressure to prove purity. He permits battle to prove bravery. What feels like warfare is actually validation. Heaven trusts you enough to let you stand in the storm. You might feel weary. But remember, fatigue does not equal failure. Even warriors rest between battles. Even the strongest hearts need moments of silence. Don't mistake temporary tiredness for defeat. You are not losing, you are being tempered. Strength forged in peace is fragile, but strength forged in fire endures forever. There will be moments when your emotions lie to you, when the voices of fear sound louder than faith. In those moments, do not answer with panic, answer with truth. Speak light into the darkness. Declare peace over chaos. You are not powerless. You are equipped. The authority of heaven is still written on your spirit, even when your mind forgets. The enemy's panic is the prelude to your promotion. Every trembling in the spiritual realm means something is about to shift. You will see people change, opportunities realign, and favor appear where none existed. It may look chaotic, but it's divine choreography. The darkness is retreating, even if it roars while it runs. Hold your ground, chosen one. Keep your peace. The enemy can only touch what you hand him. Guard your focus like treasure, because it is. Every second you spend worrying is a second you could have spent worshipping. And worship true. Surrendered worship turns the atmosphere in your favor faster than any strategy ever could. The enemy panics because you are no longer fighting from fear, you are standing from faith. You are not reacting, you are reigning. You are not surviving, you are advancing. And as you move forward, remember, the shaking isn't the end. It's the sound of your victory being announced in heaven's courts. There comes a sacred moment when the fog begins to lift. You start to see clearly, not with your eyes, but with your spirit. The confusion that once surrounded you begins to break like mist before sunrise. What was hidden in shadow begins to take shape. You finally understand that not every delay was the enemy, and not every silence was punishment. Some of it was divine strategy, heaven protecting you from what you weren't yet ready to handle. The veil of distraction begins to tear. Suddenly, you recognize the traps for what they are: shiny cages, empty promises, glitter that hides decay. The world has always been loud, offering comfort, comparison, and counterfeit purpose. But now you hear another frequency. Beneath the noise, the whisper of truth calls your name. It says, "Look deeper." You begin to notice how often distractions disguise themselves as opportunities. Not every open door is divine, and not every closed one is loss. Sometimes, God closes a door because you were never meant to sit in that room. He redirects your steps, not to punish you, but to preserve your anointing. Every no from heaven carries a quiet "not yet," or "there's something better." The world will try to dazzle you with urgency notifications, comparisons, trends, and voices calling for your attention. But heaven speaks in peace. It does not rush you, it refines you. Every time you feel the tug to slow down, that's the Spirit reclaiming your focus. The veil of distraction doesn't break all at once, it unravels. It's like dawn arriving slowly, one shade of light at a time, and when it lifts, you see what's been true all along. You are surrounded by divine timing. The things that didn't make sense begin to align. The confusion clears. The pieces start to fit. You realize you were never behind. You were being positioned. According to what is revealed in the Gospel of John, chapter 8, verse 32, you will know the truth, and the truth will set you free. That truth is not just knowledge, it's awakening. Freedom begins the moment you start to see things as heaven sees them. You stop chasing noise and start following peace. You stop reacting to the world's pull and start listening for heaven's rhythm. Beloved, chosen one. When your eyes open in this way, you begin to see life differently. The ordinary becomes sacred. The people around you stop being interruptions and start being assignments. Even your struggles transform into lessons. You no longer ask, "Why is this happening to me?" but rather, "What is heaven teaching me through this?" When you live like this, everything shifts. Gratitude replaces complaint. Stillness replaces anxiety. Faith replaces striving. The veil lifts, and you begin to walk with the calm authority of someone who knows where they belong. And yet, this kind of awakening is fragile. The world will keep trying to pull you back into hurry. into distraction, into the endless scroll of meaninglessness. That's why your focus must be guarded like gold. Every message like this, every reminder, every moment of clarity, it's like a drop of living water, keeping your spirit awake in a thirsty world. That's why I'm asking, if this message touches something in you, don't let it fade into noise, like it not for vanity, but as a signal that heaven's word found a home in your heart. When you share it, you're not just spreading content, you're scattering seeds. You never know who might hear it and finally realize they, too, are chosen. And if you feel led, subscribe, not out of obligation, but to stay close to the flow. This isn't about numbers, it's about nourishment. These words are drops from a well meant to keep your flame burning through the week. Some of you will feel a deeper tug, a desire to give, to help sustain the voice that keeps reminding souls of who they are. That's not manipulation, that's ministry. When you donate, you're not just supporting a channel, you're fueling a movement. You're keeping light alive in a world that desperately needs it. Imagine your offering as oil poured into the lamp that helps others find their way home. Every act of support, whether it's a like, a share, a subscription, or a donation, is like a ripple in eternity. The smallest gesture can ignite transformation in someone you'll never meet. That's how the kingdom multiplies quietly, humbly, but powerfully. Don't underestimate what your action does in the unseen. Heaven sees, heaven records, heaven rewards. You might think it's just a click or a coin, but in the spirit, it's an act of agreement. It says, I believe in this light. I will help it shine. The veil is breaking. Chosen one, the distractions are losing power. You are seeing clearly, walking lighter, breathing deeper. The truth has found you, and that truth is setting you free. Hold on to that freedom. Protect it. Feed it. And when you can, help pass it on. Because the world doesn't need more noise, it needs more light. The rhythm of heaven has begun to quicken. You can feel it not as noise, but as a pulse that moves through your spirit. It's subtle yet undeniable, like the quiet ticking of a divine clock counting down to something sacred. Thursday draws closer, and with it comes the weight of divine timing. Nothing about this moment is ordinary. The prophetic countdown has begun. You might not see it yet, but heaven is aligning everything. Small coincidences, unexpected delays, sudden nudges in your spirit. They're not random. They are markers of divine coordination. Heaven's hand is moving the pieces of your story into perfect position. You are not behind. You are right on schedule. The very things that seemed to slow you down were secretly synchronizing you with destiny's rhythm. Every chosen one experiences a moment like this, the stretch between promise and fulfillment. It's the place where patience feels like warfare and faith feels like fire. But listen carefully, what's coming is not chaos. It's calibration. God is fine-tuning your heart to match His timing. He won't release what's meant for you until your spirit beats in harmony with His purpose. You've been asking, when? Lord, how much longer? But the question heaven asks back is, will you trust me, even when the clock seems silent? The waiting is not punishment, it's preparation. The prophetic countdown doesn't rush, it refines. Think of it like this: a seed buried in the earth doesn't see the light immediately. There's a process of pressure and patience. But when the appointed time arrives, what once hid beneath soil bursts into the open. unstoppable. That's what's happening to you. Thursday is not the beginning of your miracle, it's the revealing of it. As the prophet Habakkuk wrote in the ancient scroll, chapter 2, verse 2, "Write the vision and make it plain on tablets, so that he may run who reads it." Heaven is saying, write it down. Every dream, every instruction, every whisper that's been stirring in your heart, capture it. Don't let revelation slip away in distraction. The countdown isn't just about waiting for something to happen, it's about preparing for what's been promised. When the moment arrives, you won't have time to plan, you'll only have time to move. That's why clarity matters now more than ever. The next season will demand movement, not hesitation. So, use these final days before Thursday to align your heart, your faith, and your focus. Clean the clutter of doubt. Let go of unnecessary weight. Heaven can't accelerate what's anchored by fear. The countdown is not measured in seconds, it's measured in surrender. Every time you release control, the clock ticks forward. Every time you trust when you don't understand, another door unlocks. And soon, what you've been waiting for will unfold right before you. You may feel tension in the air, like something is pressing on your spirit. That's not anxiety, it's anticipation. Heaven's energy increases right before manifestation. Angels are already in motion, preparing the way. The heavens are counting down in silence, and creation itself holds its breath for what's about to emerge in your life. So, chosen one, stay alert. Don't let impatience rob you of peace. The prophetic hour draws near, and heaven is calling you to believe, not to rush. There is power in waiting with faith. There is blessing in trusting the invisible. Now, as a prophetic act of agreement, I want you to write this number in the comments, 888. Do it not as superstition, but as a declaration that you are stepping into divine timing. 8 is the number of new beginnings, and when you type it, you are announcing to heaven and to your own soul, I am ready for what's next. Let it be your signal of surrender. Let it be your seed of faith. Heaven sees even that simple act as obedience. When you declare your readiness, all of creation responds. The earth itself bends to serve the will of the obedient. Thursday is coming. The countdown continues. Heaven's clock has not stopped, it's accelerating. Each tick brings you closer to revelation, to renewal, to the unveiling of what has been hidden for so long. So breathe deeply. Stay steady. Keep your eyes on the unseen. The prophetic clock is moving, and it's moving in your favor. Something has begun to stir within you, deeper than thought, beyond emotion. It's not anxiety, not confusion, it's ignition. The fire within you is waking up. You've felt it building quietly through every sleepless night, every unanswered question, every hidden prayer. You didn't realize it, but the waiting was kindling. And now, the flame is catching. You were never meant to remain lukewarm. Heaven has no use for half-lit hearts. The world is full of noise, full of motion, yet starving for true fire, for people whose lives burn with conviction, with purpose, with holy courage. That's why your spirit feels restless now. You can't go back to who you were before this awakening. You've tasted purpose, and everything else feels empty. For a long time, you thought your passion was gone. You thought life's disappointments had smothered the spark. But divine fire doesn't die, it waits. It hides beneath the ashes of exhaustion until a moment like this, the spirit breathes again, and what looked extinguished bursts back into life. You begin to see that your pain was not punishment, it was preparation. The fire couldn't be lit until you had something worth burning for. The world around you may not understand this transformation. People will notice something different. They'll feel the heat of your spirit before they can name it. You won't have to explain, your presence will do the talking. There is something uncontainable about a person who carries the fire of heaven. They shift atmospheres without trying. They walk into rooms and bring clarity. They carry peace that silences panic, joy that disarms bitterness, strength that radiates without words. This is who you are becoming. As the prophet Jeremiah cried out in the ancient scrolls, chapter 20, verse 9, "His word is in my heart like a fire shut up in my bones. I am weary of holding it in. Indeed, I cannot." That is the reality of divine fire. It refuses to stay silent. When God's word truly ignites within you, it becomes impossible to ignore. You feel it pushing against your ribs, whispering through your thoughts, calling you into movement. You can't pretend you don't hear it anymore. The voice of destiny doesn't fade. It grows louder until you surrender. This fire is not the destructive kind, it's the refining kind. It doesn't consume your identity, it purifies it. The impurities that once clouded your spirit, fear, doubt, guilt, begin to burn away. You start to feel lighter, clearer, sharper. The fire doesn't come to destroy you, it comes to reveal what's eternal within you. There will be moments when this flame feels uncomfortable. Fire stretches and reshapes. It exposes what cannot endure. Relationships, habits, and even mindsets that no longer align with your purpose may begin to fall away. Do not mourn their departure. Fire only removes what would have held you back from full illumination. Every chosen one carries this moment, the ignition point where passivity dies. The fire of calling will no longer let you hide behind excuses. You begin to crave alignment more than comfort, purpose more than popularity, truth more than approval. The fire makes you courageous enough to say no to things that used to enslave you. It gives you eyes to see what truly matters. When you move from ordinary warmth to divine fire, everything shifts. Your prayers change. They stop sounding like requests and start sounding like declarations. Your worship deepens not just songs, but surrender. Your time becomes sacred. Your words become measured. The fire teaches you that your life is not random, it is an altar. And every day, heaven expects you to keep the flame burning. That's the secret of this awakening. The fire within you was never meant to flicker, it was meant to sustain. But it needs feeding. It burns on truth, obedience, and intimacy with God. Without those, it weakens. With them, it becomes unstoppable. You may feel stretched, uncomfortable, even isolated, but those are signs that the transformation is working. Fire never leaves anything unchanged. And when you emerge from this refining season, you'll recognize yourself. But you'll also marvel, you'll see what heaven always saw. The fire within you is the evidence that you are alive for divine purpose. It is heaven's signature on your soul. Guard it, feed it, let it burn unapologetically. Because the world doesn't need more warmth, it needs light. And you, chosen one, were born to carry that flame. It happens quietly at first, almost imperceptibly. The air feels different, lighter, as if creation itself is leaning forward. Waiting, you begin to notice connections forming in unexpected places. Words once spoken in faith begin to echo back through new opportunities. The timing of heaven, once hidden and mysterious, now starts to reveal its precision. This is the season when everything aligns. Heaven's alignment is not chaos, finding order, it's divine orchestration, revealing its melody. For so long, it felt like your life was made of broken pieces, scattered without pattern. But alignment reveals that nothing was wasted. Every detour, delay, and disappointment was a deliberate thread woven into destiny's tapestry. What once looked fragmented now forms a picture only heaven could design. You start to realize that God was never late. He was strategic. The pauses were protection. The silences were instruction. The closed doors were redirection. And now, every fragment begins to connect with purpose. What was confusing yesterday becomes clear today. Every person, every event, every prayer, every tear has found its appointed place. The moment of alignment is when heaven and earth shake hands. It's when unseen forces synchronize with the visible world to release what was promised. You can sense it in your spirit before it becomes reality. The atmosphere hums with anticipation. The people you need start to appear. The opportunities meant for you begin to find you. It's not luck, it's law, divine law. Heaven's timing meeting human obedience. This alignment is not only about external circumstances, it's about inner harmony. Heaven cannot align what you refuse to release. The alignment begins within you. When your heart stops resisting, when your spirit yields to trust, when your words agree with truth, then heaven moves. Divine order flows through surrendered vessels, not striving ones. You are learning to let go of control. That is not weakness, it is wisdom. Control belongs to the Creator. And alignment begins where anxiety ends. You cannot force what heaven intends to unfold naturally. A flower does not bloom faster by pulling at its petals. It simply receives the light and grows. So too must you rest in what is being arranged for you. Every connection ordained by heaven carries purpose. Some people are being placed in your path not by coincidence, but by command. They will speak words that awaken something dormant in you. Others will challenge you to see higher, to rise beyond your comfort. Some will simply walk beside you as silent reminders that you're not alone. Every divine connection carries meaning, even if it only lasts for a season. As the Apostle Paul wrote in the letter to the Romans, chapter 8, verse 28, "And we know that in all things God works for the good of those who love him, who are called according to his purpose." This is the heartbeat of alignment. All things, the good and the painful, the expected and the shocking, the easy and the excruciating. Nothing escapes the scope of divine design. Even the things that broke you are now bending toward your blessing. The universe is not random, it is responsive to obedience. Heaven's alignment doesn't always feel comfortable. Sometimes it arrives as sudden change. A job ends, a friendship fades, a plan collapses. It feels like loss, but it's actually rearrangement. Heaven removes what hinders so that what's meant for you can take its place. Every subtraction is preparation for multiplication, and in those moments of shifting, trust becomes your anchor. You must remember that divine timing often feels like delay until it unfolds. What feels like waiting is really weaving. God is aligning your life not for convenience but for impact. What He is building in you now will outlast the temporary pain of uncertainty. When alignment reaches fullness, you'll notice how effortlessly things begin to flow. Conversations that used to require effort will come naturally. Paths will open without striving. Doors that were sealed will unlock at a touch. That's not coincidence, that's confirmation. When you are in sync with heaven, favor follows like a shadow. You will find that the more you align, the more peace you carry. The noise that once demanded your attention begins to fade. You don't chase anymore, you attract. You don't force anymore, you flow. Because when heaven is at the helm, striving becomes stillness, and waiting becomes worship. This is the mystery of divine alignment. It feels like surrender but ends in power. It feels like stillness but births acceleration. And when the moment comes, you will realize that everything, every scar, every silence, every shaking was aligning you for something greater than you could ever plan. Heaven's alignment is not just happening around you, it's happening through you. You have become the vessel where eternity and time converge. What flows next will not be random, it will be revelation. And when you step forward, the path itself will rise to meet your feet. You can feel the weight pressing on your chest. Can't you? That strange mix of anticipation and warfare. That pull between breakthrough and breakdown. It's because you've reached the test before the turning. Every chosen one faces this moment, the stretch between completion and revelation. It's the season where heaven watches in silence, waiting to see how you'll stand when it feels like everything is shaking. The test is never about information, it's about transformation. It's not whether you know what God said, it's whether you'll live like you believe it when nothing makes sense. This is where trust stops being a word and becomes your weapon. The wilderness doesn't test your strength, it tests your surrender. The pressure you feel now is divine, not demonic. Heaven applies heat not to harm you, but to shape you. Gold doesn't shine until it's refined, and oil doesn't flow until the olive is crushed. You are not being punished, you are being prepared. The tension is proof that something holy is being birthed in you. You might feel surrounded by uncertainty. Plans are shifting. People are changing. Emotions swing like doors in the wind. But don't mistake instability for failure. The shaking is heaven's way of removing what cannot remain. God doesn't test you to see you fail. He tests you to prove what He already placed inside of you. As the Apostle James reminds us in his letter, chapter 1, verse 12, "Blessed is the one who perseveres in trials. He will receive the crown of life promised to those who love Him." That crown isn't made of gold or jewels, it's made of endurance. Every time you choose faith over fear, patience over panic, worship over worry, heaven records it. You're earning spiritual authority through obedience. The test you're in is not meant to destroy you, it's meant to reveal your royalty. It's strange how tests arrive when we least expect them. They never come wrapped in clarity, they come disguised as confusion. You'll know it's a test when your emotions scream one thing, but your spirit whispers another. When you want to react, but heaven says, "Be still." When you want to walk away, but something inside you says, "Hold on," that's when heaven leans close. Angels watch with anticipation, because how you respond in the silence determines what unfolds in the sound. If you can stand firm here, you'll be trusted with more later. Faith is proven in the unseen, not the spotlight. You've been here before, on the edge of giving up, on the brink of exhaustion, You thought you were finished, but somehow you kept standing. That's the mark of a chosen one. You don't quit because quitting was never written in your design. You may bend, but you won't break. Every time life pressed you down, something divine pressed back from within. The test before the turning is always the hardest. It's the final pressure before promotion, the last resistance before release. Heaven never wastes pain. It multiplies it into purpose. And the enemy knows this, which is why he fights hardest when you're closest to breakthrough. There will be moments when you'll feel unworthy, unprepared, or unseen. Those are lies meant to distract you. Heaven doesn't choose the qualified, it qualifies the chosen. You are equipped. Even if you don't feel ready, you are prepared. Even if you can't see the full picture, every wound you've survived has already trained you for this moment. So, when the test feels unbearable, remember you are being watched not by critics, but by heaven. Your endurance is not unnoticed. Your perseverance is not forgotten. Even when you feel unheard, heaven is listening. And when this test is over, you will look back and realize that it wasn't a punishment, it was a promotion in disguise. Now, as a prophetic act, write this simple phrase in the comments, I will stand. Do it not as repetition, but as declaration. When you type those words, you're telling the universe, the darkness, and even your own fear, I may tremble, but I won't fall. You're joining a chorus of other chosen ones across the earth who are declaring the same truth, that faith still stands when everything else shakes. When you speak those words, heaven hears commitment, angels record conviction, and your own heart remembers, this is not where you break, this is where you bloom. So, take a deep breath. Beloved, the storm isn't proof of your weakness, it's proof of your strength. The test before the turning is almost over. Thursday approaches, and with it comes vindication, release, and renewal. The pressure that once crushed you will soon crown you. Stand firm. Stay faithful. You're closer than you think. There are moments in life when heaven speaks so loudly that even silence trembles. You can feel it, the resonance that moves through your chest, the vibration that stirs your soul. It's not sound in the natural sense, it's something deeper. It's the echo of eternity, reminding you that you were made for more than mere survival. This is that moment. The voice that shakes the earth has begun to speak again. You've heard whispers in the night before, but this is different. This voice carries authority. It doesn't request your attention, it commands it. It is the same voice that said, "Let there be light," and watched the cosmos obey. The same voice that split the sea for Moses, that called Lazarus from the tomb, that spoke your name before you were born. And now that voice says, "Rise." Heaven is not asking you to be perfect, it's asking you to be present, to stand where you are and answer the call. The voice that shakes the earth doesn't come to frighten you, it comes to awaken you. You were never meant to drift quietly through existence. You were meant to speak with authority, to move with purpose, to walk as one who carries heaven's sound in their spirit. As the author of Hebrews recorded in the 12th chapter, verses 25 and 26, "Do not refuse the one who speaks. His voice once shook the earth, and soon he will shake heaven and earth." This voice does not simply speak to you, it speaks through you. Once you've heard it, you cannot go back to being silent. You carry its resonance wherever you go. Every word you speak becomes charged with light. Every step you take disrupts darkness. The sound of obedience is louder in the spirit than any song ever sung. But there's something sacred about the way this voice travels. It doesn't shout to be heard. It moves like wind through trees, like waves shaping shorelines, like fire whispering through dry wood. It changes the landscape simply by existing, and when you open your heart to it, it fills you until you, too, begin to vibrate with divine purpose. This voice shakes not to destroy, but to rebuild. It tears down false foundations so the true ones can stand. It uproots lies that have taken residence in your heart, lies that said you were unworthy, unseen, or unimportant. The shaking you've felt in your life lately is not chaos, it's construction. Heaven is rebuilding your soul with truth. The shaking also reveals what was already unstable. It shows you what cannot remain: relationships based on fear, ambitions built on pride, routines fueled by exhaustion. When God's voice shakes, everything not anchored in Him begins to crumble. And though it's painful, it's mercy, because what survives the shaking is pure, lasting, eternal. And when you find yourself standing amid the ruins of what used to be, don't despair. That's where the new foundation begins. The dust settling around you is holy dust. It's the residue of transformation. Out of it, something stronger will rise. You may feel small in this vast symphony of divine sound, but remember, even a single note has the power to change the song. That's what you are, a living note in heaven's melody. Every time you obey, every time you speak truth, every time you love when it's hard, you add harmony to the divine composition. If this message resonates with your spirit, take a moment to like it, not as habit, but as a response to the sound that's stirring within you. When you share it, you're letting the echo travel further, reaching hearts that are waiting to hear their own awakening. And if these words continually water your faith, consider subscribing, not for entertainment, but for endurance. Each message is another drop of oil for your lamp, keeping your flame alive in a world growing darker. Stay close to the source. Keep your light filled. There are some who feel led to go further, to give, whether a donation or an act of kindness, as a way of saying, I believe in what heaven is building here. Think of it like tending a fire. Every log you place keeps the warmth spreading a little longer, reaching a little farther. Your support isn't just transaction, it's transformation. It helps ensure that this voice continues to echo, finding others still lost in the noise. Heaven measures generosity not by amount, but by alignment. When you give, you become part of the shaking, the holy disruption that awakens lives across the earth. You help the sound of truth travel beyond your own walls. The voice that shakes the earth is speaking again. And you, chosen one, are standing in its sound. Let it move through you. Let it steady you. Let it remind you that you are not just hearing prophecy, you are living it. The trembling you feel is heaven's way of saying, you are being rebuilt for glory. The shaking will end. The dust will settle. And when it does, you'll stand stronger, clearer, and louder than before, because the same voice that created the stars has now spoken inside you. You wake one morning and realize that something has changed. You can't quite name it, but you feel lighter. The heaviness that used to cling to your chest has loosened its grip. The fog that blurred your thoughts has begun to clear. For the first time in a long time, you can breathe without fear. What you are feeling is not coincidence, it is freedom. The chains that once bound your soul have started to break. It doesn't always happen with thunder or lightning. Sometimes deliverance comes quietly, like dawn pushing away the remnants of night. It's not always dramatic. Sometimes it's as subtle as peace in the middle of a storm, or laughter after years of silence. The breaking of chains is not always loud, but it is always powerful. For years, you've carried invisible weights, expectations, regrets, guilt, fear, disappointment. You learn to live with them as though they were part of you. But heaven never designed you to drag those chains through life. The Spirit has been patiently loosening them, link by link. Through every prayer you whispered, through every tear you hid. Freedom doesn't come all at once. It unfolds as you trust. Every moment of surrender breaks another link. Every time you choose forgiveness instead of bitterness, another shackle falls. Every time you speak truth where you once stayed silent, another lock clicks open. Heaven never forces freedom, it invites you into it. You were never meant to earn it, you were meant to receive it. The breaking of chains begins inside. Before the world changes around you, your spirit changes within you. That's where the real battle has always been. The enemy could never truly imprison your body. He only tried to convince your mind that you were bound. Once you see that the door has been open all along, you realize that freedom was waiting for you to walk out. There's a sacred power in realizing that your deliverance is not a distant promise, it's a present reality. You are not waiting for freedom to find you. Freedom is waiting for you to believe it's already yours. The moment you stop identifying with your wounds, you begin to heal. The moment you stop rehearsing pain, you begin to live. As the Apostle Paul declared in his second letter to the Corinthians, chapter 3, verse 17, "Now the Lord is the Spirit, and where the Spirit of the Lord is, there is freedom." Those words are more than scripture, they are your story. The Spirit of the Lord has moved into your life, and with His presence comes liberation. Everything that once controlled you, fear, shame, anxiety, addiction, has lost authority. The Spirit is stronger. The Spirit is your release. Freedom does not mean the absence of challenges. It means you face them differently. You no longer bow to the same fears that once dictated your choices. You no longer run from the same memories that used to haunt you. The same situations might arise, but the you who faces them now is not the same person who once bowed beneath them. The sound of chains breaking is the anthem of transformation. It is the noise of a soul returning to its true rhythm. And once you hear that sound, you will never settle for bondage again. The Spirit teaches you to recognize counterfeit chains, the subtle forms of captivity that come disguised as comfort. He trains your discernment to sense the difference between peace and paralysis, between contentment and compromise. You begin to notice that freedom carries responsibility. It demands awareness. It calls you to walk wisely, to protect what you've gained, because the enemy, though defeated, will still attempt to whisper through the cracks of your confidence. He will try to convince you that you are still the same person you used to be, but you are not. The evidence of your freedom is not in how loudly you declare it, it's in how calmly you walk through what once frightened you. Sometimes, the greatest proof of deliverance is quiet composure. The storms rage, yet you don't flinch. The accusations come, yet you don't defend yourself. That's the maturity of freedom. It doesn't need to prove itself. It simply is. You might still feel traces of the old pain from time to time. Don't mistake that for regression. Healing leaves memories, but they no longer have mastery over you. What used to paralyze you now simply passes through you. Unable to stay, you've become too filled with spirit to make room for shackles. Every step you take now echoes differently. You no longer drag your past behind you. You walk with the steady rhythm of someone unchained. Heaven delights in that sound. Every movement of your freedom reverberates in the spiritual realm like worship. You've been through a long night, but the dawn is here. The gates of your captivity are open. The prison guard has fled. The walls have fallen. The Spirit has spoken, and His voice has undone the power of every chain. Now you walk in the truth of who you are, redeemed, restored, released. The breaking of chains was never just an event, it's a lifestyle. Every day you live in truth. Every time you choose joy. Every time you extend grace, you keep those chains from ever finding their way back. You are free, chosen one, and freedom looks good on you. And now, chosen one, the hour approaches the day heaven circled long before you were born. Thursday. You can feel the pulse of it, like the air before a storm, thick with unseen energy. Everything you've endured has led to this. Every delay, every tear, every sleepless night has been counting toward this divine moment. Thursday is not merely a date on the calendar, it is a prophetic appointment. When heaven sets a time, the earth must respond. Circumstances align. People are repositioned. Closed doors unlock. Things that made no sense suddenly fall into place. You begin to see that nothing was wasted. The pain was placement. The confusion was construction. The silence was set up. Thursday is when what was hidden becomes visible, when the spiritual becomes tangible. This is not the kind of revelation that only changes your mood, it changes your direction. It realigns your path, redirects your steps, and restores your sight. You begin to remember the promises you once buried under disappointment. Heaven has been polishing them, preparing to hand them back to you brighter than before. It begins quietly, like sunrise spreading across the horizon. You'll notice it first in your spirit, an unexplainable peace, a sense that something has shifted. Then, in your surroundings, unexpected messages, reopened opportunities, divine coincidences that remind you this is not coincidence at all. Everything is synchronized, down to the smallest detail. As the prophet Habakkuk revealed in the sacred text, chapter 2, verse 3, "For the vision awaits its appointed time, it speaks of the end and will not prove false. Though it lingers, wait for it. It will certainly come and will not delay." This verse is more than reassurance, it's revelation. Heaven does not operate on our impatience, it operates on precision. The appointed time is never early, never late. It's the exact second when your readiness meets God's release. That is what Thursday represents, the intersection of your preparation and heaven's manifestation. You've been stretched in the waiting, tested in the silence, refined in the fire. Every part of you that wanted to quit has been trained for endurance. And now, heaven looks upon you and says, "It is time." The clouds that once hid your path are parting. The light is returning to your steps. Thursday is not just about what changes around you, it's about what awakens within you. Your faith grows sharper. Your discernment strengthens. the voice of God becomes clearer. You begin to walk with new confidence, not arrogance, because you finally understand who stands with you. This is the hour where obedience meets opportunity. Heaven doesn't send miracles to those who wait passively, but to those who stay positioned. You've remained faithful through seasons of silence. You've prayed when nothing seemed to move. You've forgiven when bitterness would have been easier. Heaven has watched every act of quiet obedience, and now the reward begins. It will not come with fanfare, but with fulfillment. You will see promises resurrected, relationships restored, resources released. Things that once drained you will now energize you. What once felt random will suddenly make sense. You'll look back and realize that every closed chapter was necessary to make this one possible. This is why the spiritual pressure has been so intense lately. Before every release comes resistance. Before every birth comes labor. You are feeling the contraction of heaven pushing something new through your life. Don't fight it, breathe through it. The discomfort is the sign that the delivery is near. Even creation recognizes it. The air feels charged. Time feels shorter. And your spirit feels awake in ways it hasn't before. The countdown has reached its end. The trumpet may not sound in your ears, but it resounds in your spirit. Heaven is announcing your transition. And now, as an act of agreement, I want you to comment the number 444. Do it not for ritual, but as declaration. 4 is the number of creation, of divine order, of foundations being set. When you type that number, you are saying to heaven, I align myself with your timing. Let your order unfold in my life. It's a way of planting faith into motion. Heaven sees that small act and responds. Because numbers in the spiritual realm carry symbolism, they represent faith turned into action. When you declare 444, you are not just typing, you are building an altar in the unseen, marking this moment as sacred. Thursday is the bridge between what was promised and what will be fulfilled. Walk across it with boldness. You will not miss your moment. Heaven has scheduled this hour for your awakening. Soon, you will see evidence of what your spirit already knows. Doors will open that no one can shut. Words once spoken over you will come alive. The delay has expired. The appointed time has arrived. And when it does, don't be surprised if peace settles where anxiety once lived. Don't be shocked when joy feels natural again. That is what alignment feels like, the world finally catching up with what heaven already decided. So breathe in this moment. Chosen one. Thursday is not coming to test you, it's coming to reveal you. Everything hidden, everything prepared, everything promised, it all unfolds now. It is strange, isn't it? How revelation rarely arrives in the way we expect. It doesn't shout, it settles. It slips into your understanding like light seeping through curtains in the morning, illuminating what had always been there. You blink, and suddenly what once confused you now feels perfectly clear. That's what happens when heaven reveals the why. This is the section of your story where realization dawns the moment you understand why the journey had to be so difficult. Why certain people left. Why certain doors never opened. Every question that once tormented your nights begins to find its answer. Not in explanations, but in peace. The revelation of why you were chosen begins not with logic, but with remembrance. You look back and start to see how even the painful moments carried purpose. The betrayals became blessings in disguise. The loneliness became the birthplace of intimacy with God. The rejection carved space in your heart for compassion. You realized that the very things that felt like losses were actually lessons, carefully arranged to shape your character. Heaven has never wasted a wound. Every scar on your soul is evidence of survival. But more than that, it is proof of preparation. There are things you carry now that you could only gain through pain, wisdom born of endurance, empathy forged through tears, authority refined through adversity. You are not weaker because of what you've been through. You are wiser. There were moments when you thought your silence meant heaven had abandoned you. But now you see that silence was sacred. It was the womb of revelation. The quiet wasn't God ignoring you, it was God forming something within you. Every unanswered prayer was part of a larger conversation, one that stretched beyond time, as was written in the book of Genesis, chapter 50, verse 20. You intended to harm me, but God intended it for good, to accomplish what is now being done, the saving of many lives. Joseph's words echo through centuries and into your present moment. You see now that what others meant for harm, heaven converted into fuel. The betrayal that broke your heart positioned you for purpose. The valley that humbled you became the bridge to victory. The pit wasn't punishment, it was placement. You understand now that the hand of God was never absent, it was simply invisible. You were being carried through what you thought was chaos. Heaven was leading you by a map only faith could read. Every no you received was not rejection, it was redirection. Every door that closed was protecting you from lesser things. You weren't being held back, you were being held for something greater. Revelation feels like breathing after years of holding your breath. You realize you were never the victim of circumstance, you were the student of divine design. You were being trained, not trapped. Every tear became a seed. Every delay became discipline. Every heartbreak became holy ground. It's humbling, isn't it, to realize that what felt like defeat was actually development, that your weakness became the very proof of His strength. That grace didn't just rescue you, it rebuilt you. You begin to see your entire life as a sermon, preached not in words, but in endurance. And with that revelation comes gratitude, not the surface kind, but the deep, trembling kind that wells up from the soul. Gratitude for every hard season, every long night, every time you almost gave up. You start to whisper, "Thank you," not because everything is perfect, but because now you understand it never had to be. You were chosen not because you were flawless, but because you were faithful. God saw that even when you broke, you didn't stop believing. Even when you didn't understand, you still whispered, "I trust you." Heaven crowns that kind of faith with revelation. You are beginning to walk differently now, no longer with the limp of loss, but with the stride of understanding. You carry a quiet confidence, not built on pride, but on perspective. You've seen too much of God's hand to ever doubt His heart again. This revelation does not make you boastful, it makes you compassionate. When you look at others still lost in confusion, you don't judge them, you intercede for them. You understand now that revelation is a gift, not an achievement. And gifts are meant to be shared. There will come moments when people will ask how you kept going, how you survived when others gave up. You'll smile, remembering the nights you thought you wouldn't make it, and you'll say softly, "Because I was never alone." That's what revelation does. It transforms your testimony from tragedy into triumph. When you finally grasp why you were chosen, you realize it was never just about you. The favor on your life was designed to overflow, to touch others, to break chains for those who haven't yet found freedom, to light paths for those still stumbling in darkness. You are a vessel, not a monument. You are chosen not to be admired, but to be useful. Heaven's purpose through you is redemption. The same grace that saved you will now flow through you. The same fire that refined you will now ignite others. The same compassion that comforted you will now heal hearts through your voice, your story, your presence. You are living proof that what was meant for harm can become holy. That pain can birth power. That rejection can lead to revelation. And when you finally see it all clearly, you'll realize that being chosen wasn't a reward, it was a responsibility. You carry that understanding now, not as weight, but as wings. The revelation doesn't anchor you, it frees you. And as you walk forward, you do so with eyes wide open, aware that every step you take fulfills a story. Heaven began writing long before the world ever knew your name. There is a stillness before great movements of God, a calm that feels both soothing and electric. You can sense it now, the gathering of something larger than yourself. It's not anxiety, it's anticipation. The ground beneath you hums with purpose, as though heaven itself is holding its breath. You are not alone in this moment. There are others scattered across nations, speaking different tongues, carrying different scars, but they feel the same stirring. You are part of them, and they are part of you. This is the rise of the remnant. The word remnant sounds small, but it carries the weight of eternity. It means what remains after everything else has fallen away. It's the ones who didn't bow to compromise, who refused to trade conviction for convenience. You are among those who stood when others sat, who prayed when others mocked, who believed when belief was costly. The remnant is not perfect, but it is purified. They've walked through the fire and emerged as proof that grace can preserve even in the fiercest storm. You have felt isolated for so long, convinced that your faith made you a stranger. You've walked rooms where your silence was misunderstood as arrogance, where your purity was mocked as naivety, where your compassion was mistaken for weakness. But what you didn't realize was that heaven had hidden you, not forgotten you. Isolation was preparation for identification. You were being shaped in secret so that, when the moment came, your spirit would recognize the others. And now, the moment has come. The same divine fire that burns in you burns in them. Across the world, hearts are awakening in harmony. They're hearing the same call, seeing the same signs, sensing the same urgency. The remnant is rising not to boast, not to dominate, but to illuminate. This is not a movement of pride, but of purpose. It begins quietly, like embers catching in distant corners of the earth. One heart ignites another. One testimony awakens hope in a stranger. One act of obedience sends ripples that reach unseen shores. Before long, the isolated flames join to form a wildfire, holy, relentless, unstoppable. This is what heaven has been orchestrating, a generation that refuses to be silent, a people who will carry light without fear. As written in the book of Daniel, chapter 11, verse 32, the people who know their God shall be strong and carry out great exploits. That verse is the anthem of the remnant. It's not the loudest or the most famous who will shake the world, it's the ones who know their God. Not through religion, but through relationship. Not through ritual, but through revelation. These are the ones who have walked with God in the dark, who have felt His presence in the pit, who have learned His voice by hearing it whisper through tears. The remnant rises not with arrogance, but with authority. They are battle-tested, forged by hardship, purified through surrender. They have no interest in fame, because they've seen how empty applause can be. They don't seek validation, because they've learned that heaven's approval is enough. Their strength is not loud, it's lasting, and what binds them together is not similarity, but spirit. They come from every background, every culture, every corner of the world. Yet, when they speak, it's as though one heartbeat echoes through all of them. You may never meet them in person, but you will feel them in prayer. You will sense their agreement in the unseen. The remnant is connected through obedience. This rising is not just about revival in churches, it's about renewal in hearts. It's the quiet reclaiming of holiness in a world that's forgotten what sacred means. It's the courage to love purely, to speak truth tenderly, to live righteously even when it costs. It's about bringing heaven's culture into earth's chaos. There's a reason heaven calls you part of this. You were never meant to stand alone. Even prophets who walked deserts weren't truly isolated. They were part of a greater lineage, a divine continuum of faith. The same spirit that hovered over creation, that filled the prophets, that resurrected Christ now burns in the remnant. It's the same fire, different vessels, and you, chosen one, are one of those vessels. You may not have realized it yet, but the world has already felt your impact. Every prayer you've whispered in secret added weight to the balance of good and evil. Every act of forgiveness shifted atmospheres. Every time you chose compassion over vengeance, the kingdom advanced a little further. The remnant doesn't just preach, it lives truth until the darkness can no longer deny it. The beauty of the remnant is that it thrives in adversity. While the world collapses in fear, the remnant stands firm in faith. While others retreat, the remnant rebuilds. While others curse the darkness, the remnant lights candles. Their strength lies not in numbers, but in endurance. When the crowd disperses, the remnant remains, and though they are few, they carry the weight of many. Heaven multiplies their influence because purity carries power. God doesn't need armies when He has alignment. One voice of truth can dismantle 1,000 lies. One act of obedience can shift generations. That is the magnitude of what you carry. You are part of something eternal. The remnant doesn't fade. It endures. Long after trends pass and kingdoms fall, the light in these hearts will continue to burn. This is the generation heaven has been waiting for, the ones who will love without compromise, serve without reward, and shine without fear. And as this remnant rises, the world will not understand them. They will call them radical, strange, even dangerous. But heaven will call them faithful. They will not move in human strength, but in divine authority. And when the darkness tries to silence them, their light will only grow brighter. You were not born to fit the world, you were born to remake it. The remnant is rising, and the earth will remember their flame long after the smoke of history fades. The air feels sacred now, heavy with purpose, yet light with freedom. You can sense the shift in your spirit, the long preparation, the unseen refining, the painful pruning, it's all leading to this, the moment of crowning. Heaven has watched your endurance, your tears, your hidden faithfulness. And now, as the smoke of your old battles clears, a hand reaches toward you from eternity. It carries not another burden, but a crown. This is not the kind of crown the world gives, the kind made of metal and jewels. This one is invisible, forged in endurance, refined in humility, and sealed in obedience. It is the crown of those who stood when others fell, who believed when logic mocked them, who prayed even when their own hearts doubted. You have carried the weight of purpose long enough. Now, heaven places recognition upon your head. You won't feel it like a physical object. You'll sense it as authority in your spirit, a deep inner confidence that replaces old insecurities. You'll walk differently, not with pride, but with peace. You'll speak differently, not louder, but with more weight. The crown doesn't make you superior, it makes you responsible. You are now a carrier of influence, a representative of heaven on earth. As the Apostle Paul wrote in his second letter to Timothy, chapter 4, verse 8, "The Lord, the righteous judge, will give the crown of righteousness to all who long for his appearing." But remember, every crown carries weight. The higher the elevation, the stronger the humility must be. A crown is not a reward to rest under, it's a commission to serve under. You are being called not to rule, but to lead through compassion, to use your influence not for attention, but for impact. Think of it like a torch being placed in your hands. The fire you carry now isn't just for you, it's for those still lost in the dark. Every word you speak, every choice you make, every action you take, someone is watching, learning, drawing hope from your light. This is what it means to wear the crown with grace. And if these words resonate with your spirit, if something in you whispers, "This is for me," then take a moment to engage. Like this message, not for vanity, but as a small act of worship, an acknowledgement that heaven has spoken. When you share it, think of it as releasing light somewhere. Someone sits in the same darkness you once knew, and your share becomes the spark that awakens them. Subscribe if you haven't already, not as a follower, but as a fellow flame-bearer. These messages aren't just videos or words, they're fuel for your fire. They keep the embers glowing when the world tries to smother your faith. Stay connected to the stream that keeps your light alive. And if you feel led, give whatever form generosity takes for you. It could be a donation, a prayer, an act of kindness. Giving is not loss, it's planting. Think of it like sowing into soil that produces light. Every seed you plant ensures that this message continues to reach hearts that need it. The lamp doesn't stay lit on its own, it burns because someone refills the oil. You could be that refiller for someone else's flame. Even commenting on this message is part of that light spreading. Words have power. When you leave your reflection, your amen, your I receive, your thank you, Lord, you strengthen someone else reading silently, wondering if they're the only one who believes. Comments become community. Community becomes revival. Heaven's work often looks ordinary on the surface, a click, a share, a donation, a sentence. But in the spirit, those small acts are thunder. They echo, they expand light across timelines and territories you'll never see with your eyes. You are not just consuming truth, you are co-laboring with it. The crown you wear today isn't decoration, It's declaration. It says to the world, I belong to the kingdom that cannot be shaken. It's not about status, it's about stewardship. You are trusted with influence, not because of who you are, but because of who lives in you. And as you carry this crown into your next chapter, remember this: every act of love polishes it. Every word of truth strengthens its shine. Every sacrifice for righteousness anchors it deeper on your head. This crown is not fragile. It was forged in the fire you've already survived. So, wear it with humility. Shine with purpose. Lead with love. And never forget, when you honor what heaven gives you, heaven multiplies it. You are crowned and commissioned. Chosen one. The world may not see the jewels, but the darkness does, and it trembles at their glow. The air has shifted again. You can feel it in ways words cannot capture: the quiet hum beneath your days, the calm certainty that things are no longer as they were. It is not only your heart that has changed, it is the atmosphere around you. The spiritual landscape itself bends to the rhythm of your obedience. You have stepped into a higher frequency of divine order, and the world is beginning to respond. This is the shifting of the atmosphere. At first, it may seem subtle. You'll notice small things: conversations flowing more easily, opportunities aligning without strain, peace settling in places where chaos used to reign. People who once drained you no longer affect you in the same way. The things that used to frighten you now seem strangely small. This is not arrogance, it's ascension. Your spirit has risen, and your surroundings are adjusting to your new altitude. Heaven always honors alignment. When you obey, creation itself recognizes it. Every act of faith you've made, every yes whispered through trembling lips, has rearranged something in the unseen realm. The earth is responding to your surrender like a field to rain. You are no longer surviving in the storm, you are commanding it. The shift is not about changing circumstances, it's about changing atmosphere. Circumstances are external, but atmosphere is spiritual. You can feel it when you walk into a room. The air thickens with peace or tension, depending on what spirit dominates it. When heaven shifts you, it also gives you the power to shift the air around you. Wherever you go, light follows. You've become a carrier of divine climate. Your presence brings warmth into cold spaces, clarity into confusion, stillness into noise. You are not just existing, you are emitting. Every prayer you've prayed, every declaration you've spoken, every tear you've sown has become fragrance in the air. Heaven uses it to mark territories that belong to you. And just as the world responds to physical weather, people respond to spiritual weather too. Some will be drawn to you without knowing why. Others will pull away because the light within you exposes what they're not ready to confront. Don't take it personally. The shifting of the atmosphere often rearranges relationships. What cannot breathe in your new altitude will fall away. It's not rejection, it's refinement. You are learning to live in a new spiritual ecosystem. The same spaces that once drained you will now feel too small for what's inside you. It's like a tree outgrowing its pot. The roots crave deeper soil. Heaven is expanding your influence not through striving, but through presence. Your obedience has created resonance, and that resonance draws resources, favor, and divine assistance. As was spoken in the book of Malachi, chapter 3, verse 10, I will open heaven's windows and pour out blessings so abundant that you cannot contain their fullness. That promise is not about wealth alone, it's about overflow. The shift of the atmosphere always precedes the release of abundance. When heaven opens its windows, it doesn't just rain, it floods. Blessings pour into every area, relationships restored, creativity reignited, provision multiplied, health renewed, peace established. You're stepping into a dimension where blessings aren't earned, they flow. But this flow is not meant for hoarding. You are a river, not a reservoir. The more freely you allow blessing to move through you, whether through forgiveness, generosity, or love, the stronger the current becomes. When heaven finds a vessel that doesn't block the flow, it keeps the stream unending. You've entered the stage where even silence carries authority. When you walk into a room, the air changes because of what you carry. The same way a storm shifts the pressure in the sky, your faith shifts the balance in the spirit. The world may not see it, but heaven records it. You are not reacting anymore, you are radiating. This is what divine maturity feels like: stillness in motion, power under control, peace that does not need explanation. You are no longer praying from panic, you are decreeing from position. You are not chasing blessings, they are chasing you because the atmosphere around you has become magnetic to favor. Everything now flows differently. Doors don't need to be forced, they open. People don't need convincing, they recognize. Provision doesn't need pursuit, it arrives. That is the nature of divine alignment. You've stepped into the current, and the current carries you faster than effort ever could. The shifting of the atmosphere is not a moment, it's a mantle. You are now a thermostat, not a thermometer. You no longer measure the world's temperature, you set it. And wherever you go, heaven follows. When the dust finally settles, what remains is clarity. Thursday has passed, yet its echo lingers, a resonance not of noise, but of knowing. You wake not into a new world, but into the same one seen through purified eyes. Everything looks familiar, yet different. The light seems warmer, the air feels weightier. The rhythm of your days no longer beats to the same anxious tempo. You are walking in revelation now. This is the eternal echo after Thursday. Heaven never intended Thursday to be just a day. It was a doorway. You stepped through it without realizing that something within you crossed a threshold that cannot be uncrossed. What happened in the spirit continues to ripple through time. The transformation may not be visible to others yet, but it is undeniable to you. The fear that once ruled your decisions has lost its authority. The uncertainty that once dictated your steps has been replaced by quiet faith. You have changed, not outwardly, but elementally. You no longer operate from striving, but from stillness. The hunger in you has matured. It is no longer desperation for answers, but desire for deeper presence. You no longer chase signs, you carry substance. Thursday wasn't the end of your journey, it was the unveiling of your true nature. This is what heaven meant when it said, "You will not be the same." It wasn't a threat, it was a promise. Transformation rarely announces itself with spectacle. It manifests in subtle shifts, the way your thoughts find peace more quickly, the way your patience outlasts pressure, the way forgiveness feels easier, not forced. That is the fruit of revelation, endurance without effort. The fire that once tested you has become the light that guides you. The tears that once drowned you have turned into rivers watering new growth. The silence that once frightened you has become your sanctuary. You have learned the secret language of heaven, one that speaks in timing, in trust, in the quiet assurance that all things are still working together for your good. As the Apostle Paul wrote in his letter to the Philippians, chapter 1, verse 6, "He who began a good work in you will carry it on to completion until the day of Christ Jesus." That promise is not a finish line, it's a continuation. Heaven's work in you didn't end on Thursday, it accelerated. The same hand that guided you through pain is now guiding you through purpose. The same Spirit that comforted you in darkness now empowers you in light. You are still being shaped, but now you are aware of the sculptor's touch. There is a calm authority that rests on those who have walked through revelation. You no longer need to prove yourself or defend your journey. The validation of heaven silences the opinions of men. You understand now that growth often looks like loss to those who haven't experienced it. The pruning continues, but it no longer scares you, it excites you, because you know fruit always follows. Your heart has become a different landscape. There is room now for joy where sorrow once lived, for faith where fear once built its nest. You've stopped measuring life by what you achieve and started measuring it by what you become. And what you are becoming is radiant. The eternal echo of Thursday is not a memory, it's a movement. It reverberates through every prayer you whisper, every decision you make, every act of love you offer. You are now part of the divine resonance, an ongoing song that heaven sings through willing hearts. You have entered a rhythm where purpose feels natural. You no longer have to chase moments of glory, they follow you. Because glory isn't a cloud descending from above, it's light emanating from within. Heaven has taken residence in your spirit, and the world around you begins to feel it. There will still be battles, but they won't define you. There will still be storms, but they won't drown you. The difference now is that you know where your anchor lies. Your faith is not fragile anymore, it has roots. You no longer seek God only in desperation, you walk with Him in devotion. This is what it means to be transformed, not to escape humanity, but to carry divinity through it. To live among the ordinary while revealing the extraordinary. To touch the earth while keeping your gaze fixed on eternity. Thursday may have marked the moment, but its echo is eternal. It reverberates in your words, your choices, your presence. Wherever you go, the world will sense it. The quiet strength, the steady peace, the unmistakable glow of someone who has met God and carries the evidence. And now, beloved chosen one, the message has reached its final breath, but your story is only beginning. The words that have spoken to you were never meant to end on this screen. They were meant to ignite something lasting within you. What you've just walked through wasn't a series of lessons, it was a spiritual awakening. You didn't just listen, you remembered. If this message has stirred something deep in your spirit, if it felt like heaven itself whispered your name, don't let it fade into silence. Let it echo. Share it. Not as content, but as confirmation. There is someone in your world right now who needs this same reminder. Someone praying for a sign that God still speaks. You could be that sign. Take a moment to like this message if it resonated with you, not as a habit, but as an act of gratitude. A simple amen to the word you've received. Comment below what this journey has awakened in you. Even a single phrase from your heart. Your words may become the light that lifts another soul tonight. And if you haven't yet, subscribe. Stay connected to this flow of revelation and renewal. This space isn't a platform, it's an altar. Together, we build it every time we engage. Every time we choose faith over fear. Every time we help another heart hear what heaven is saying, the story doesn't end here. Chosen one, it continues with you.